A sex cult leader has been sentenced to 60 years behind bars for his heinous crimes, with his multiple offenses being dubbed as unspeakable cruelty. On Friday, 20th of January, Lawrence Ray was sentenced to 60 years in federal prison. Following a 4-week trial before U.S. District Judge Louis J. Lehman, the unanimous jury convicted Ray of every count presented to the jury in less than a day of deliberations. First found guilty back in April last year for sex trafficking and racketeering among many other crimes, Lawrence Ray, or Lawrence Greco, is set to remain behind bars for the next 6 decades. Ray began to lay out his plan to commit these abhorrent crimes at the Sarah Lawrence College, a liberal arts college based in New York that his daughter attended. Following this, Ray, who was 50 at the time, convinced several students to live in a 1-bedroom apartment with him on the Upper East Side after the school year was over, where he would go on to carry out more of his deplorable crimes. The now 63-year-old moved into his daughter's student living halls back in 2010, which is where he would engage in therapy sessions with other students. The Department of Justice in the Southern District of New York has since released a statement on the matter. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, 12 years ago, Larry Ray moved into his daughter's dorm room at Sarah Lawrence College. And when he got there, he met a group of friends who had their whole lives ahead of them. For the next decade, he used violence, threats, and psychological abuse to try to control and destroy their lives. He exploited them. He terrorized them. He tortured them, Williams added. Dubbing Ray a predator, Williams went on to say he was an evil man who did evil things. The evil things in question include, but are not limited to, sleep deprivation, psychological and sexual humiliation, verbal abuse, threats of physical violence, threats of criminal legal action, alienating the victims from their families, and exploiting the victims' mental health vulnerabilities, as per the Department of Justice statement. On one occasion, Williams outlines, Ray tied his victim to a chair, placed a plastic bag over her head, and nearly suffocated her. Ray collected millions of dollars in forced prostitution proceeds from this victim. Claudia Drury, a survivor of the brutal crimes, made a statement during the sentencing hearing. It was unrelenting sadism, Drury's statement read. It was hell, it was a deliberate, educated, and sustained campaign to break me. Every time I was forced to prostitute myself, I felt myself getting more numb. I barely have the energy to exist day to day. When speaking of the devastating effect Ray's crimes had on his victims in the court hearing, Judge Louis J. Lehman said, it was sadism pure and simple. Assistant U.S. Attorney Molly Bracewell also added, what the court saw and jurors saw was the defendant's unspeakable cruelty.